If you're paying attention to American politics right now, you know that the key word, the buzzword, the market-tested word is affordability. You know, with 4 years under Joe Biden, when we had inflation up to 9+%, and we were told it was transient, it wasn't real, and there's no inflation, but no one cared about affordability back then. But now, everything's so expensive. What are we going to do about it? Listen, you've got two choices how to fix the affordability problem. You can get the New York City route and hire a Marxist to be your mayor who's going to have the government buy up everything and then hand it out to you for 10 times the cost. That doesn't sound very affordable. Or you can do what's always worked in America. You can do what's always worked in a free society with free markets, and that is get the government out of the way, let American entrepreneurs and industry thrive, and suddenly things become more affordable. Just take a look at gas prices right now. This from CNN yesterday.
Gas prices below $3 for the first time in years. Let's get to CNN's Matt Egan for the good news on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to finally be here with some good news on the cost of living front. So for the first time in 4.5 years, gas prices are averaging $3 a gallon nationally, according to AAA, down by 7 cents in just the past week. Gas prices were low a year ago as well, but they're even cheaper now. This is encouraging to see because late last month there was a period where gas prices were actually higher this year than last year, but that has reversed again, and now we've just fractions of a penny away from breaking below $3 a gallon. Now, as you mentioned, we've got 20 states across the country where the average is actually less than $2.75 a gallon, including North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Colorado as well. Certainly nice to see this. Why is this happening? Well, it all comes down, of course, to oil prices, right? Oil prices are about $59 a barrel this morning. You look back in history, on December 1, 3 years ago, we're looking at $81 a barrel for oil, $67 even last year. So significantly cheaper. And that's because right now, supply of oil continues to outpace demand. It's U.S. supply. Production in the U.S. is at all-time highs. It's higher than last year, but only a little bit higher. OPEC is the big story, though, right? Saudi-led OPEC, they are ramping up production substantially this year. They've signaled that they plan to pause those output hikes next year. But for now, look, this is a good story when it comes to the affordability crisis. Gasoline, it's relatively cheap.
All right.
Wow. And you also get a supply and demand lesson on CNN of all places to boot. That's all very remarkable. By the way, forgive me, that's from this morning, not from yesterday. Okay. And by looking at those graphs, you saw exactly what years we were talking about and who was in charge of America's oil, gas exploration, and energy policies during those years when the prices were so high. Now, what's this all about? And is this a recipe that can be replicated to push back against the push towards Marxism? Let's bring in our buddy David Fromm. He is the host of the American Potential podcast. I want to make sure I get the name of it right. And that's brought to you by our friends over at Americans for Prosperity, where you guys know about this kind of thing, David. I mean, where did we go wrong where suddenly all these college grads decided that Marxism is the solution when we can see right for ourselves what works?
Well, hey, Larry, thanks so much for having me on. I think, when we look back at the past, we got to remember what happened in the last 4 years prior to the Trump administration. I mean, the policies that the Biden administration propagated restricted energy production, drove up costs. We saw runaway spending. So, of course, things cost too much, and I think affordability is a giant issue still for the American people. And, seeing gas prices come down, that's going to help with affordability across the board, because it affects everything that we buy. But it also is, we need to unleash American energy abundance. And, there's that has been restricted and choked off in so many different ways over the past, in the past administration. And I really applaud the Trump administration. We saw the one big beautiful bill that they included provisions to unleash energy independence and energy production. We see a lot of states following suit. So I think that that's one of the keys here to trying to get affordability back in the mix.
Well, and there's a direct connection between our freedom, Americans' freedom, and businesses' freedom to that prosperity that we're all hoping to achieve. Prosperity partly is connected to affordability. You need to be able to afford things and purchase the things that you want to make your life better and to enjoy prosperity. So, talk a little bit about how every time it appears to me, at least, when the government tries to get in there and fix the problem by creating a new issue or a new bureaucracy or a new regulation for an industry, it has the opposite effect. It doesn't actually make things cheaper.
Oh, it drives up the cost incredibly. I mean, I'll tell you what. So you mentioned I host this American Potential podcast, which is Americans for Prosperity's podcast. And one of the great joys I have is I talk to everyday people who are trying to make a difference in their community. But so often it's a business owner who got activated in the political system or, in their state legislature or against federal government because they're really being oppressed and overregulated by the government, whether it's at the state level or the federal level. And it's just choking off innovation. And sometimes people feel like they're doing it for good reasons. The government, people have different reasons for it. But, we need to empower people. I think the more that we empower people to go and do and to innovate, that's what is American ingenuity. And that's what we want to spark. And too often bureaucrats and their allies in Congress and in the executive branch at times have choked off American ingenuity. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about as an organization is the SPEED Act, and that's an act by the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, Bruce Westerman, that will really streamline permitting, try to fight against frivolous lawsuits that are stopping energy projects from being from coming online and transmission projects. I mean, it's just a classic example of the federal government and all their different layers and their different agencies have just choked off energy production. And that's one of the reasons why we're suffering and why we've had high prices for so long. Fortunately, this has taken a move forward. I happened to talk to Chairman Westerman on the podcast a few months ago. We were in Montana at this energy summit, which is a great place, by the way, to go to an energy summit.
Yeah.
And this is a guy whose career prior to coming to Congress was really dedicated to like nature. I mean, he believes in preserving nature and having a great relationship with nature. But he just is like, he talked about the ridiculous and mind-numbing regulations that are stopping us from being an energy powerhouse. And so it's really great that there's some steps forward here with the SPEED Act and then what the Trump administration is doing. So I'm hopeful. I really am hopeful that there's a lot more energy production in our future that'll provide great jobs, but even more importantly, defend our national security because we'll be energy independent.
Yeah, David, and it always seems to be under the guise of environmental protection. Before they came up with the greenhouse gases and the carbon dioxide, carbon emissions and global warming, before that it was, fear of oil spills or fear of, the mining or drilling that they have to do that would destroy our forests and our land. There's always an environmental reason that they don't want us to explore for more gas or oil. But is that just a fig leaf that they use as an excuse where it's really trying to sort of control or cripple American industry and sort of just stifle that kind of growth in this country?
I mean, my personal opinion is that with some folks, it's almost becomes a bit of a religion that that the environment, we should have a symbiotic relationship with the environment. Like we need the environment to be healthy and good, right? For us to enjoy and for us to have good health as well. We also want to be able to leverage the resources that we're blessed with in this country. I mean, it's almost unparalleled, the number of different resources that we have. We still have obviously great natural gas reserves, oil, tons of coal, and then we have all the renewables that can be used. So we're really blessed, but somehow the people who've been making decisions over the last half decade have decided, that's not okay. And the American people pay the price for that. And, the people who pay the price the most are the people who can least afford it. I mean, if you're a wealthy person and your gas bill goes up by 50% or it costs you $15 more to fill up your car to get to work, you can probably absorb that. But if
Yeah.
you're someone on a really limited fixed income and you're lower income, that is catastrophic. We held, I'll tell you, they really brought into a picture for me. We would hold these events during the Biden administration where we would drop the price of gas to the price that it was when Joe Biden came into office. And the line that would form to get that cheaper gas was unbelievable. And there were people who would be crying and telling us their story about how devastating the high price of gas was to their personal budget. And it was so impactful, having to make real choices about, do I get this, do I eat, or do I pay for the gas so I can actually get to work to keep earning some money? And it was heartbreaking. And, these decisions have, some of the radical environmental decisions that were made have real impacts on regular people.
Yeah, and you mentioned, by the way, David, you raised the specter of national security, and that's an important element of this too. There's some people who speculated that we have as much oil that is untapped and unexplored here in America as maybe Saudi Arabia does, right? And yet we let these foreign countries really run roughshod over the global market. If you're angry about Vladimir Putin and Russian tanks rolling into Ukraine, well, it's purchasing Russian oil and gas that funded that excursion into Ukraine. So America being energy independent, being able to drill it, not only brings our costs down, but it actually frees us from all of these bad actors around the world.
I mean, it's absolutely true. We have so many reserves. I mean, I go to Alaska sometimes for part of my job, and
I
they're sitting on top
travel
of
as much as you, David. This is a great gig you've got.
It's I don't know. My family always feels that way, but I've gotten to see some really cool stuff. And there's so much. There's so many reserves in places like Alaska, Wyoming. Our team was just out there, visiting the largest coal mine in the country. And they 40% of the coal comes in the nation, I think, comes out of Wyoming. I go down to New Mexico because it's one of the states I have some responsibility for. And New Mexico is the second largest oil producer in the nation, which you never think next after Texas. But I mean, there's these places that have great resources that can help us nationally for our national security to make us independent. But it also has the chance. What it will also do is it'll make these states. It generates wealth for these states. So take New Mexico for instance. It's a poor state. I mean, they have some serious problems there, and their residents are not being served by their leadership in the government. But they're sitting on tons of oil that can actually just unleash so much prosperity on an individual level for those states. And so that's kind of some of the message that we're trying to bring forward and trying to unleash at the national and the state level the kind of prosperity for everyone, so that they can achieve the American dream.
That's the whole point. And that's a brilliant point, by the way, about New Mexico. In fact, if we could bring the picture up again there, if you don't mind, Kevin, because look at those states where the gas prices right now are below $2.75 a gallon. They all have, except for Colorado and New Mexico, they all have one thing in common. They all vote Republican consistently every single presidential election. And for the most part, they have Republican governors as well. It's just Colorado and New Mexico that is sort of lucked into that spread there. And a lot of it is because of the entrepreneurial spirit and the unleashed prosperity that the governments in those states allow for the industries and for the people in those states to be able to do oil and gas and energy exploration. And they don't have the same kind of encumbrances and taxes and regulations and carbon emission standards and all that stuff that has become stifling for America's growth and for very real wealth creation. A great example, and I appreciate you expanding on it. It's the American Potential podcast. You all should subscribe to it and give it a listen, because the great folks at Americans for Prosperity and David, through that podcast, they've got a lot of big plans, and we're going to do some collabs this year coming up, especially celebrating America's 250th birthday. And all the values and all the principles that really brought us. Not a lot of countries last for 250 years with the same constitution. There's a reason for that, and it's because of freedom. And you guys harness that. You communicate it so well on your podcast, David.
Well, thanks, Larry. We really appreciate it. I'm so looking forward to coming on, continuing this conversation, highlighting some of the great people that we've talked to on the podcast and some of their stories. Because, man, the more I talk to people, the more I realize that there's so many great people doing amazing things, and I'm excited to bring some of those stories to the fore.
And to tell you the truth, I think these podcasts and our conversations that we're having, that you're doing, it's critically important because we take it for granted. We take for granted that our generation and generations after us just assume, oh yeah, freedom and prosperity and free market economics, that's what make countries great. No, we have to continue to talk about it. Just like Rush used to do before he passed, sadly. Just we had all the great communicators. We have to keep reminding people that it's our freedom, it's our liberties, it's our prosperity. It's not our government. When you start thinking that way, that's how you get a Zoran Mamdani in charge of things. And we don't want that. David, thank you so much today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Sorry, we got to cut it off there. All right, we'll see David Moore coming up, as I mentioned. And take care and subscribe to his podcast. It's American Potential, and you're going to enjoy it.